My name is Rup Singh, and I'm the founder of a small but mighty consulting and education firm in the blockchain space called Intuit Factory, and we are about to get this party started. So here's what we're going to do. When I teach boot camps, classes, workshops, etc., we bring everybody together in front, and we form a circle, and then we do some things. So if you would please, I invite you to join me over there. Everybody. It's going to be fun. Folks in the back. Hey guys, we're about to get this party started. If you would, please come up and join us. It's going to be interesting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 1, 1, 1. You thought you would come here and talk about boring technology topics like blockchain and stuff. Please come on up in the front. We got plenty of seats. Don't be shy. I won't pick on you. All right, so let's take a temperature of the room. Let's just do a scale of 1 to 10 on how familiar you are with blockchain as a technology, 1 being the least, and 10 being you're an expert in it already. So, how many of you think you're at 5? Okay? How many think you're above 5, from 5 to 10? Okay? How many think from 1 to 5? Okay. Now let's extend this to not just blockchain as a technology, but how familiar are you with blockchain as a business or as a strategic transformation method? 1 to 5. Okay? 5 to 10. Okay, wonderful. So we have a good mix here, more skewed towards 1 to 5. So, before I bore you with PowerPoint slides, let's take a sense of what do you all think about this whole blockchain space? What are your myths? What are your impressions? What are your thoughts? What is something that you would like to get out of not just today's session, but of the 3 days that we have here together? So, go ahead, please.
I have no idea what blockchain is.
Perfect.
I got an email. I was like, all right, I'm down. Find out what's going on.
Sweet. Thank you for doing that. This is going to change your life.
Hopefully.
It did mine. Okay, anybody else? Any myths, comments, thoughts? What do you want to get out of this whole thing?
Basics of blockchain.
Okay, basics of blockchain. Right on.
Business ideas.
Business ideas. Okay, elaborate that.
Just business use cases for blockchain.
Okay, business use cases of blockchain. You say that because you don't think that there are any?
No, they are. I just don't know how to go about thinking about how to incorporate that in a business sense.
Perfect.
Profiting and everything like that.
Right, so how do you go about creating business use case enabled by blockchain technology? Does that make sense? Exactly. Right, I had that.
I hope that we have a structural, methodical approach to networking, so we know, who's good or at what, and who's interested at what. Some kind of speed dating thing is possible, or that kind of thing if possible.
I'm looking at Misha.
I didn't get a question.
So he's wondering if there is a methodical way of networking, some kind of a speed dating event, to figure out who's good at what and how we can exchange value. Is that true?
Yes. Thank you.
So we can think about that. Yeah. Maybe sometime Sunday might be a good opportunity.
Also sounds like a good blockchain use case.
Thank you, Misha. That's a good one. Okay, anybody else? Yes.
So I do a lot of things with cloud technology.
Uh-huh.
So I'm interested to see where the possibilities would take us in the next decade.
Wonderful. This is the next evolution of cloud technology, so very appropriate. Sure. Michael, you had something? A thought, comment? So the question is that what are you here to learn? What do you want to get out of today in the next 3 days that we have together?
Oh, I want to read all of the people interested in blockchain.
Okay.
Expand my understanding of blockchain technologies, and I have a whiskey company that I want to put this supply chain on blockchain.
Wonderful. You had us at whiskey. Sorry.
You just have to share.
I brought samples. I was listening to that.
Too early for family?
Yeah, it's a hackathon, you know. Whatever happens at the hackathon stays at the hackathon. Go ahead.
So I have a business idea and I'm trying to see if blockchain is the right technology for microbanking.
Wonderful. So when Misha talked about that pitch, that will be something up your alley. Anybody else? What are some of the confusion? What do you think this is? And you know, when you read about it in the media, what really gets you? What attracts you? What confuses you? And maybe what pisses you off? Sorry, I had a hand.
For the previous thing, I wanted to understand what kind of skills people need to have to get into this industry, besides obviously the interest, and who are more suitable for this industry.
And when you say skills, you mean technical skills?
Technical or business, like, it may be redundant, or people with supply chain experiences, or people with product management experiences, who are best fit, or who will have an easier out compared to more of a learning curve.
Right. Okay. I'm sure we'll get to those elements. Yes, sir.
I think one thing to be helpful regarding logistics, we can update it, schedule, so we know, which events we can miss at what time, maybe break or whatever. Because look at this, the schedule may change, and I don't know exactly when.
Yeah. So this is, I've been to a few conferences in my lifetime and organized a few. So this is going to be much more of a organic grassroots type event, if you will. And Misha helped me with that, if you will. So the idea here is to let the organic connections grow. And there's a set of people that are here just for the hackathon bit, and they're going to sit in and develop. And then there are people here who are more generalists, more business-like. They're looking at understanding frameworks, understanding how to develop use cases, learn as much as they can, and then interact with the development community. So some of it is going to be quite organic. It's not one of those, here's the strict agenda and we will have to go about this. Having said that, there are a few things that you'll see, will be much more useful for your perspective. Does that help?
Yes.
So my confusion is blockchain really needed?
Perfect. Good question. And we'll address that. I saw a hand over there. Yes, please.
I'm trying to understand scalability and where it is around moving to the proof of stake model.
Okay. So more on the technical side, scalability. Are we there yet? Is that even a concern? Some people might say it's not. Some people say, until you scale up, we don't want to pay attention to it. So definitely, yes.
Also, maybe something regarding regulatory regulations, especially maybe international laws that may be favorable when we want to apply blockchain.
Right. So there's a session. When is it? Tomorrow. Austin Mills is speaking on regulation, so you definitely want to catch that. I saw a hand somewhere in the back over there. Anybody else? So how many of people here think blockchain is the same as cryptocurrency? Raise your hands. Okay. How many of you think that cryptocurrency is the best application of blockchain? Scott. Okay. A few. If I went towards the back of the room over in that hackathon section, probably 90% of the hands would be. So we'll address what I see is there's a set of people, there's a community of people that have come from the development side and from the crypto space. So there seems to be apparently a divide between the business or the enterprise blockchain applications versus this whole crypto and token applications. It seems like they don't speak to each other. There's a huge sort of mistrust with each other. And one of the attempts that we are doing throughout this 3 days is to align the two communities and say, okay, how can we help each other? Because there's value to be had on both sides. Right? Okay. With that said, let's get this started. Julie, keep me honest in time. I want to get this first section done in about 25 minutes. Right? So I don't want to bore you with PowerPoint slides. Feel free to interrupt me at logical moments. The way we're going to do this is this first section is going to be very basic on what is blockchain, and then we'll get to 8 principles, 8 reasons when to use blockchain. And this should answer your question. Right? And the opposite of that might be true. If you don't find these principles, if you don't find these reasons, then why the hell bother? Right? And then that will stop there, and then I think Travis will come up and do his talk on Industry 4.0. And then we'll continue a deeper dive discussion on using frameworks and how to understand the space and how to go develop the use cases. Right? And that probably will do that in the other way. Okay? Okay. So imagine to yourself, why do I need a blockchain? Maybe I don't. Maybe I can do things in the current state of technology. So we have a lot of people coming to us because it's a buzzword now. You can raise your stock price by issuing, a statement. Oh, we're working on blockchain projects. In fact, there's evidence that in earnings calls with a lot of big companies, the reference or even words like blockchain have increased their value, and the number of references that you hear in earnings calls has increased dramatically in the last year or so. So the question that I would ask you is this an appropriate use case for blockchain, or do you really even need it, right? Reason number 8, automation. So we touched on this before. Blockchain to me is a better way to do business process automation. All these processes that you have amongst different participants of the network, or all the partners of the network, or the partners of the value chain, if I could automate some of that and use principles of blockchain where we can agree to a set of rules early on rather than reconciling data back and forth. So from a business process standpoint, there's an argument to be made that business process management is blockchain. So I published an article on that just a couple of days ago, so if you want a lot more detail on that, feel free to read that. Authenticity. So a few things we've talked about: immutability and transparency. The fact that this data theoretically is available for everybody to see as part of whoever's in the network, and sometimes people who are not even in the network, depends on how you implement it. It leads to this thing called transparency. Because now, there is no question on what the state of the data is. I don't have to believe them. I just say whatever's on the wall, that's the data. It doesn't matter what you think. That's what we published. Right? And the reason we could do that is because we have this thing called immutability, that we believe, and in fact technically, that transactions are immutable, cannot be changed. So what that allows me to do is do auditability. I can go back, trace 10 years back, and look at when these transactions occurred and what were these transactions. So that has huge implications on applications like supply chain, right? Or even payment type applications. Okay, so I'm getting a signal, so I'm going to move on. We've covered most of these things. Decentralization, you guys heard that. So 2 aspects of decentralization: getting to a distributed state, and then having data encrypted. Disintermediation. When you look for business use cases today, you will see that a value chain of the products that you make or services that you consume is made up of a number of different partners. You know, we have our friend Bob here from UPS. He will speak later in the day on the nature of business processes in supply chain. So if you started looking at those kinds of use cases, you will find that a lot of the parties that are part of the supply chain may not need to. Their role or function was to establish trust. But now we're moving from that model to establish trust not in those companies or entities, but establishing trust with the chain. Proof of ownership. Because of immutability, we can now prove that this asset is yours. So quick use case, if you go back, some of you who've been to emerging economies and developing countries, it's very difficult to prove who owns this piece of land. And land, or the ownership of land, was probably the most important or fundamental economic development method that we've seen in our civilization. So what happens is you have this piece of paper, and then it's sitting in some municipal, some county, some village office somewhere. You know, I got my land from my father, he got it from his father, he got it from his father. So just to prove that chain of ownership becomes onerous. And there's a lot of fraud in that. You know, I see some smiling faces. I personally have gone through those issues. If you can't find that one old dusty record with that one little page that says your grandfather's name, boom, you're shit out of luck. Good luck. So what we're moving to now is a world where we can prove the ownership of any asset. Be it your car, be it your piece of land, be it your house, be it this clicker. And we'll talk a lot more about how physical assets like land and this building are now being converted into virtual assets. So like a piece of art, if I can convert a Van Gogh painting, which is probably a few $1 million, and I can allow for a virtual asset that represents the physical asset, it becomes easier to transfer the ownership and to monitor the provenance of where the ownership was at what point of time. Similar to that is proof of authorship. You're getting you're getting credit for your idea. A lot of musicians, people who develop content, many of us will. You know, so think about this. You all publish so much videos, text, data on platforms like Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn today. Do you get royalties out of that? At the moment, they take data generated by the users, which is us, and they sell it to the sponsor. That's the business model they live in. Now we're evolving to a better business model, where you, the publisher or the creator of that content, should be able to get credit and, in fact, royalties for such content being produced. Within this space, you will see quite a few applications in that regard. We talked about transparency already. So the point here to think about is allow yourself to suspend disbelief in the current state of the world and find areas where there is a lack of transparency, so that you can then figure out areas where there is a lack of trust efficiency. So blockchain in itself is a medium of creating trust. And it's a much more efficient medium than we have created in the past. So when you look at your business use cases, look at the entire set of participants and see where there is an opportunity to create trust and how effectively and efficiently can we create that. So essentially, blockchain allows for trust and transparency in an increasingly automated world. So you'll hear quite a bit about IoT in a few of these discussions. So the number of devices on the planet are increasing. The number of people coming online is increasing. And as they increase, if you just go by Reed's law, as they increase, the number of interactions amongst those devices and amongst those people increase exponentially. So in that increasingly automated world, how do we develop trust? That's the center. So here's a quick summary of all the principles. Take a moment to review those. And you can use these as your guiding post, as your guiding principles, as you develop your pitches and as you develop your use cases. Yes, sir.
Yeah, thanks. That's very clear, the reasons to use blockchain. But I think that number 8, number 7, and maybe number 1 as well, I have questions because I believe that automation and authenticity or authenticity and sincerity of the reporting of the asset may not be warranted, because that still can be manual or somewhat manual, and we have to rely on the validation of the device or equipment to report that transaction or the people who entered that transaction, and that may interfere with the trust.
Right. So great point. So in most of these applications, you'll see the point that I'm about to demonstrate. So let's take an example of the macro painting we discussed. Let's say I call that right over there, that mural is a Van Gogh mural. Prove it on. That's the question we ask, right? So what happens is any level of asset has to be first brought onto the chain. So we have to establish trust somehow early on, because after it is on the chain, then we implicitly believe that this is trustworthy, right? But the question you're asking is, how do we establish trust before it gets on the chain? And that's when a lot of these other processes come in. The picture, you have to trust humans, etc. Right? That's your point. So I would say, well, we'll get to the next section later, but blockchain alone is not enough. What you will see is blockchain doesn't have unlimited power. It's not a supercomputer. There are other technologies that need to be aligned in an entire stack to enable such trust to happen. So one example would be IoT. The other example would be AR, VR type technologies. And you'll hear about a lot of these throughout the 3 days. So the idea is that I still have to prove that this is an authentic Van Gogh painting in the first instance. Once that happens, then I can trade and I can transact on it later on the chain, but I still have to prove the first part. And that's part of the challenge to virtualize a lot of the physical assets. How do I prove that this building is what it is? What are the dimensions of the building? How do I prove that? There's a piece of paper somewhere in some office that says that, right? So how can we increasingly automatedly prove that? So you'll start seeing applications of IoT, right? So these are just a couple of examples.
It's not in the quality or characteristics of the asset, but the process to report.
Yeah, I'm including that in there. Right. So the process is increasingly becoming more automated.
Say the barcode and the device to read the barcode on a product or a drug.
Right. So it's a very evident use case. You might hear from some folks from CDC where we talk about drugs and the authenticity of the drug in the first place, and to make sure that this is the original or the authentic drug, and we're not sharing counterfeit drugs, right? So we have to develop models, automated models, be it IoT based, be it AI ML based, be it VR AR based, and a few other technologies. So they, in conjunction with blockchain, allow for such experience. Right? Okay. So we're going to take a break here. Are there any other questions just on this bit? Smita, you're not allowed to ask.
I'm not too sure, but would you be able to share these slides?
I can. Is there a particular slide? So what I'll do is this particular slide, we'll keep it around for you to refer back to as you're developing your use cases in the ideation section. That should be helpful. Any other questions, thoughts, comments? Did I confuse you all? Yes, sir.
Just a question. Through the layout, you talked about how to digitize the asset. Isn't this worth talking about a specific point of like switching from a physical asset to like
virtual asset, right? Yeah. So I think in the next few discussions, I don't want to put everything in the first stage. Just meant to be just introductory, getting the feedback. So one thing you need to just remember, the takeaway from all of this is, blockchain is a medium of trust efficiency. Wherever you can find that in your use cases, that's when you're making progress. The other ancillary to that is, as he just said, we have now the ability to virtualize or digitize physical assets. So we are moving into a world where we could already share information easily. That's what internet did for us. We're moving into a world where we can share value, or we can trade virtual assets much more easier. We can exchange virtual assets much more easier than we have been able to do that in the past. So these are the two takeaways. Good? Are we good? Any last thoughts, comments? Okay, great. So thank you everybody, and I will see you in a little bit for the second half, more framework-based discussion on developing use cases. When we get to that, that's probably going to be the other. So thank you for joining.